His hands shook. He couldn't stop them. Outside the window of the expensive black car, the dust was swirling in the air. A woman stood there on the side of the road. Her clothes were old and faded. Her back was bent low because she was carrying a heavy bundle of firewood tied with a rough rope. She looked like she was in pain, but she kept walking. Behind her were two little girls. They were small and thin, with dust on their legs and no shoes on their feet. Inside the car, the air conditioner was blowing cool air, but Kwame felt like he couldn't breathe. He knew that woman. He knew the way she walked. He knew the shape of her face, even though it looked tired and worn out now. Then the woman lifted her head. Her eyes met his through the glass. Kwame felt his heart stop beating for a second. It wasn't just the woman. It was the two little girls behind her. They looked up at the car with big, serious brown eyes. Kwame stared at them. He looked at their noses. He looked at their chins. It was like looking in a mirror. They looked exactly like him. The engine of the luxury car went silent. Time stood still. The past he thought he had buried deep in the ground had just walked out onto the road to stare him in the face. Before we find out what happens next, tell us in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is for you right now. And if you believe that the truth always comes out in the end, don't forget to like this story and subscribe. 2 hours earlier, everything had been perfect. Kwame sat in the back seat of his shining black SUV. The leather seats were soft and smelled new. He was wearing a suit that cost more money than most people in his village earned in 10 years. Beside him sat Chantel. She was beautiful, with long hair, perfect makeup, and expensive sunglasses. She was scrolling through her phone, looking at pictures of clothes and parties, barely looking out the window. Kwame looked out at the passing world. The tall glass buildings of the big city were gone now. They were replaced by green trees, red dirt roads, and small houses with tin roofs. Kwame took a deep breath. He was 40 years old now. He was one of the richest men in the whole country. He owned big trucks and ships. When he walked into a room, everyone stood up. When he spoke, people listened with fear and respect. He had built all of this from zero. That was what he always told people. He was a self-made man. So, this is it? Chantel asked. Her voice sounded bored. She looked out the window at a goat chewing on some grass and wrinkled her nose. This is where you grew up? Yes, Kwame said. He sat up a little straighter. This is my home. Chantel laughed a little. It wasn't a nice laugh. It's very dusty, she said. And small. Are you sure your family house is big enough for us to stay in? Maybe we should have booked a hotel in the city. Kwame felt a little annoyance in his chest, but he pushed it away. He had brought Chantel here for a reason. He wanted to show his family that he had made it. He wanted the village elders to see his beautiful, rich fiancée. He wanted to prove to everyone, and maybe to himself, that he was no longer the poor boy with holes in his shoes. He wanted to show them that he had moved on from the past, especially from her. Just thinking her name made his jaw tight. F was part of the old life, the life of hunger and shame. Years ago, he had left this village with anger in his heart. He believed she had betrayed him. He believed she didn't believe in his dreams. So he had run away to the city and promised never to look back. In his mind, that chapter was closed. The book was finished. Sir, the driver said, looking in the rearview mirror. We are getting close. Should I take the bypass road around the village? It is faster. Kwame looked at the road ahead. If they took the bypass, no one would see them. They would sneak into his family's compound quietly. But Kwame didn't want to be quiet. He had worked too hard to be quiet. No, Kwame said. Drive through the center. Drive through the main market street. Chantel looked at him over her sunglasses. Why? It will take longer. I want to see the old place, Kwame said. But the truth was, he wanted the old place to see him. The driver turned the wheel, and the big black car rolled onto the bumpy main road of the village. As they moved slowly through the town, everything changed. People stopped what they were doing. Women selling tomatoes in the market stood up and pointed. Children stopped kicking their footballs and ran to the side of the road to stare. Car like this never came here. It shone like a dark mirror in the sun. "Who is that?" Someone whispered loud enough to be heard. "Is it a politician?" "No, look at the face. Is that Kwame?" Old man Mensah's son. Kwame saw the recognition in their eyes. He saw the shock. He saw the respect. Felt good. Felt like a cool drink of water on a hot day. He had left as a nobody, and he had returned as a king. "They are staring at us," Chantel said, fixing her hair. She smiled at her reflection in the window. "I guess they don't see people like us very often." "People like us," Kwame repeated softly. He used to be people like them. But he didn't say that. As the car crawled past the old school and the church, Kwame's mind drifted. He remembered standing on these corners, trying to sell chewing gum just to buy food. He remembered the shame of having nothing. He remembered F holding his hand when he had nothing to give her but empty promises. "You never talk about your ex-wife," Chantel said suddenly, breaking the silence. She was looking at him now, curious. Kwame's face became hard like stone. "There is nothing to talk about." "Oh, come on," Chantel teased. "She must have been something if she broke your heart. Or did you break hers?" "She made her choice," Kwame said coldly. "I made mine." In Kwame's version of the story, F was the bad guy. He told himself she was unfaithful. He told himself she wanted a man with money, not a dreamer. It was easier to believe that. It made leaving easier. It made ignoring the past easier. "Well," Chantel said, grabbing his hand, "I am glad she is gone. You deserve better. You deserve a queen, not a village girl." Kwame squeezed her hand, but he didn't look at her. He looked out the window. The car was approaching the edge of the village where the houses were smaller and the trees were thicker. This was the poor side, the side where the road wasn't paved. And that was when he saw her. The car was moving slowly because of a pothole. Up ahead, walking on the dirt shoulder, was a figure that looked familiar. It was the way she walked, slow but steady, like she was carrying the weight of the world but refused to fall down. She had a huge bundle of firewood strapped to her back. The wood was heavy. He could see her neck muscles straining. Her dress was an old blue print, washed so many times the flowers were almost invisible. Kwame squinted. His heart started to beat a strange rhythm. Thump thump, thump thump. Then he saw the children. 2 of them, twin girls. They were walking right behind her, stepping in her footprints. They wore matching pink dresses that were too short and stained with brown dust. They carried small bundles of sticks on their heads, helping their mother. They looked tired. They looked hungry. The car got closer. The woman heard the engine and stopped. She stepped off the road to let the big vehicle pass. She reached out a hand to pull the children closer to her, protecting them from the dust. As the car rolled by, she lifted her head to look. Kwame felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. It was F. She looked older. There were lines around her eyes and mouth. Her skin was dry from the sun. She looked thin, too thin. But her eyes, those dark, deep eyes, were exactly the same. "Stop!" Kwame shouted. The driver was so surprised he slammed on the brakes. The tires screeched in the dirt. The car jerked to a violent halt. Chantel gasped and dropped her phone. "Kwame, what is wrong with you?" she yelled. "Why are we stopping in the middle of nowhere?" Kwame didn't answer. He couldn't speak. He was staring out the window, paralyzed. Outside, the dust from the tires drifted over F and the girls. F didn't move. She just stood there, holding her heavy load, looking at the black monster of a car that had almost hit them. "Open the door," Kwame whispered. His voice was trembling. "What?" Chantel asked, looking angry. "Who is that? Is it a beggar?" "Kwame, don't tell me we stopped for a beggar." Kwame ignored her. He pushed the door open. The heat of the afternoon hit him instantly. It smelled of red earth and burning wood. He stepped out of the air-conditioned car onto the dusty road. His polished Italian leather shoes sank slightly into the dirt. F saw him. Her eyes went wide. She took a step back, almost losing her balance under the wood. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked at his suit. She looked at his face. And then, She looked down at the ground, as if she was ashamed to be seen like this. Kwame took a step toward her. F. She didn't answer. She just gripped the strap of her firewood tighter. Her knuckles were white. Kwame! Chantel called from inside the car. She stepped out, looking annoyed. She swatted a fly away from her face. Seriously? We are stopping for this woman? Look at her. She's filthy. F flinched at the words. She looked at Chantel. So clean. So rich. So beautiful. Then she looked down at her own torn dress. I should go, F said quietly. Her voice was raspy, like she hadn't spoken in a long time. She turned to the little girls. Come, let's go. But the girls didn't move. They were staring at Kwame. Kwame looked at them, really looked at them. They were about 6 or 7 years old. They had the same forehead as him, the same shape of the ears. And when the girl on the left frowned, it was the exact same frown Kwame saw in the mirror every morning when he was shaving. The math crashed into his head. He had left 7 years ago. Wait, Kwame said. His voice was loud, desperate. Wait. F stopped, but she didn't turn around. Her back was stiff. Those children, Kwame said, pointing a shaking finger. Whose children are those? Chantel rolled her eyes. Oh my God, Kwame. They are obviously hers. Can we please get back in the car? It's hot and I think I felt a mosquito. Quiet. Kwame snapped at Chantel. He had never raised his voice at her before. She looked shocked. Kwame walked closer to F. He was close enough to smell the sweat and the wood smoke on her. F. Look at me. Slowly, painfully, she turned around. Her eyes were full of tears that she refused to let fall. I asked you a question, Kwame said, his voice cracking. Whose children are they? F looked him straight in the eye. For a moment, the tired woman vanished, and the proud, strong girl he used to love appeared. They are mine, she said softly. And the father? Kwame asked. The air felt heavy. The birds stopped singing. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath waiting for the answer. F looked at the luxury car. She looked at the beautiful woman standing next to it with a disgusted look on her face. Then she looked at her 2 little girls, standing in the dirt with bare feet. They don't have a father, F said. Their father died a long time ago. Kwame felt the blood drain from his face. I'm not dead, F. The man I knew is, she replied. Just then, the little girl on the right, the one named Ajoa, stepped forward. She was brave. She looked up at the tall man in the suit. Mister, she said with a tiny voice, why are you making my mommy cry? Kwame looked down at the child. He fell to his knees in the dirt, ruining his expensive suit trousers. He looked into her eyes, his eyes. Kwame started, but he choked on the words. Chantel marched over, her heels clicking on the stones. She grabbed Kwame's shoulder. Get up, Kwame. This is embarrassing. People are watching. Who cares who the father is? She's just some village woman trying to get money from you. Let's go. F's face changed. The sadness turned into anger. She adjusted the heavy wood on her back. You think I want your money? F said, her voice rising. I have survived 7 years without a single coin from you, Kwame. I don't need you now. 7 years, Kwame whispered. You were pregnant. When I left, you were pregnant. You didn't stay long enough to find out, F said. He didn't know? Chantel laughed. A cruel, sharp sound. Wow, drama. So you kept it a secret? Or maybe you just weren't sure who the father was. The slap didn't come from F. Came from the silence. It was the shock of the insult. F didn't scream. She didn't fight. She just looked at Kwame with deep disappointment. Your woman speaks loudly for someone who knows nothing. That's enough, Kwame said to Chantel, standing up. He looked at F. Is it true? Are they mine? F didn't answer him. She turned to her daughters. Ajoa, Abina, pick up your sticks. We are leaving. No. Kwame grabbed F's arm. You are not going anywhere until you tell me the truth. F pulled her arm away violently. The movement made the heavy wood shift. She stumbled. The rope bit into her shoulder. She gasped in pain and fell to her knees in the dust. The firewood spilled everywhere. "Mommy!" the twins screamed. Kwame reached out to help her, but F slapped his hand away. "Don't touch me," she yelled. "You want the truth, Kwame? You want to know if they are yours?" She pointed at the girls, who were now crying and trying to lift the heavy wood off their mother. "Look at them!" F screamed, tears finally streaming down her dust-covered face. "Look at their faces. And then tell me if you can sleep tonight in your big house." Kwame looked. He saw the fear in the girls' eyes. He saw their poverty. He saw the hunger in their thin arms. And he saw himself. He had become a billionaire. He had conquered the world. But standing there on that dusty road, watching his ex-wife struggle in the dirt, while his own flesh and blood cried in fear, Kwame realized something terrible. He was the poorest man on earth. Chantel looked at the scene, checked her watch and sighed. "Kwame, are we going or not? This is boring." Kwame turned to Chantel. His eyes were burning with a fire she had never seen before. "Get in the car," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "What?" I said. "Get in the car," Kwame roared. Then he turned back to F, who was trying to stand up. He didn't ask this time. He stepped forward, grabbed the heavy bundle of firewood, and lifted it up. "What are you doing?" F asked, breathless. "Carrying my load," Kwame said. The wood was heavier than it looked. As soon as Kwame lifted the bundle onto his shoulder, the rough bark dug into his expensive suit jacket. A sharp twig scratched his neck. The weight pressed down on his spine, making his knees buckle for a second. He gritted his teeth. He was a strong man. He went to the gym 5 times a week in the city. He lifted heavy metal weights. But this was different. This was the weight of survival. And F, with her thin frame and tired eyes, had been carrying this every single day while he sat in air-conditioned offices signing papers. "Put it down," F said. Her voice was shaking. She looked at him with a mix of confusion and anger. "You will dirty your suit." "Let it get dirty," Kwame grunted. He adjusted the wood. "Lead the way, F." "No," she said, stepping in front of him. "I don't want your help. I don't want your pity. Put it down and go back to your palace on wheels." "I am not going anywhere," Kwame said. He looked at the twins. Ajoa and Abina were watching him with wide eyes, holding hands. They looked scared. "I am walking you home." F stared at him for a long moment. She saw the sweat already forming on his forehead. She saw the stubborn look in his jaw, the same look she used to love. Finally, she turned around without a word and started walking. Kwame followed. Behind them, the big black car moved slowly, like a giant predator stalking its prey. The driver kept the car creeping along at walking speed. Inside, Chantel was fuming. She was pressing her face against the glass, watching her billionaire fiancé marching in the dust like a common servant. The walk was torture, not because of the wood but because of the eyes. The whole village seemed to have come out to watch. "Is that Kwame? Look at his shoes. Those shoes cost more than my house. Why is he carrying wood? Is he mad?" Kwame heard every whisper. His Italian leather shoes were not made for the rocky, dusty road. Every step pinched his toes. Dust coated his shiny trousers. Sweat ran down his back, soaking his silk shirt. But he didn't stop. He focused on the 2 little girls walking in front of him. Their pink dresses were torn at the hem. Their feet were bare and calloused. "My daughters," he thought. The words echoed in his head. "My daughters don't have shoes." After 20 minutes of walking, they left the main road and entered the poorest part of the village. Here, the houses weren't made of brick. They were made of mud and sticks. The roofs were rusty sheets of metal held down by heavy stones. F stopped in front of one of the smallest huts. The mud walls were cracked. The door was just a piece of old fabric hanging from a nail. "We are here," F said. She didn't look at him. She just pushed the fabric aside. Kwame lowered the wood to the ground. His shoulder was throbbing with pain. He rubbed the spot, trying to hide the wince. He looked at the hut. "You live here." "It is a roof," F said simply. It keeps the rain off. Mostly. Mostly. Kwame felt sick. I sent money. I sent money to my brother every month. I told him to give it to the family. To look after everyone. Let out a dry, bitter laugh. Your brother? The one who built a 2-story mansion last year? The one who drives a new truck? We haven't seen a penny, Kwame. Not one penny. Kwame's fists clenched. His own brother. He had been so busy making money in the city that he had trusted the wrong people. He had assumed his money was fixing everything. But money means nothing if it doesn't reach the hands that need it. Mommy, I'm hungry, Abina whispered, tugging on F's dress. F's face softened. The anger vanished, replaced by a deep, aching sadness. She crouched down. I know, baby. I will boil some cassava. Just wait a little bit. Can we have fish today? Ajoa asked, her eyes hopeful. F looked away. Not today. Maybe tomorrow. Kwame felt like crying. He had thrown away a half-eaten steak dinner last night because it was too well done. I have food, Kwame said quickly. He turned to the black car which had parked awkwardly on the narrow path. Driver, bring the basket from the trunk. The driver jumped out and opened the trunk. He pulled out a luxury picnic basket filled with imported chocolates, expensive cheese, apples, and bottles of sparkling juice. It was meant for a romantic picnic with Chantel. Kwame grabbed the basket and brought it to the girls. Here, he said, kneeling in the dirt. Take this. Eat. The girls didn't move. They looked at the strange food. They had never seen a green apple or a block of cheese wrapped in gold foil. They looked at F for permission. F nodded slowly. It is okay. The girls grabbed the apples. They didn't even wipe them. They bit into them hungrily, juice running down their chins. They ate like they hadn't seen food in days. Kwame watched them, his heart breaking into a million pieces. Then the car door slammed shut. Chantel stepped out. She had to walk on her tiptoes to avoid sinking her high heels into the mud. She held a handkerchief over her nose as if the air itself was poisonous. Kwame, she screeched. Are you insane? You are feeding them our imported cheese? That cheese cost $50. F stood up. She stepped in front of her eating children like a lioness protecting her cubs. Chantel, Kwame warned, standing up. Go back to the car. No. Chantel stomped her foot. I am tired of this. We are supposed to be meeting the chief. We are supposed to be taking photos. Instead, we are at this pigsty. She waved her hand at F's home. Look at this place. It smells like rot. And these kids. They are dirty, Kwame. Don't touch them, you might catch a disease. Snap. Something inside Kwame broke. These dirty kids, Kwame said, his voice shaking with rage, are my daughters. Chantel froze. What? You heard me, Kwame said. He walked toward Chantel, forcing her to step back toward the car. These are my children. And this woman is 10 times the person you will ever be. She kept them alive while I was buying you diamond earrings. You are choosing them? Chantel gasped. Her face turned red. Over me? I am a model, Kwame. I am on magazine covers. She is a nobody. She is their mother, Kwame said. Fine, Chantel screamed. She pulled the engagement ring off her finger, the ring that cost a fortune, and threw it into the mud. If you want to live in the dirt, then stay in the dirt. I am going back to the city. She turned to the driver. Take me to the airport. Now. The driver looked at Kwame. Kwame nodded. Go. Take her. But sir. The driver hesitated. How will you get back? I am already where I need to be, Kwame said. Chantel got in the car, slammed the door, and the black SUV reversed quickly, kicking up dust before speeding away. The silence that followed was heavy. Kwame stood there, feeling strange. He was stranded. No car. No phone signal. His suit was ruined. His fiancée was gone. He turned back to F. She was watching him with a strange expression. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't clapping. She looked suspicious. You think sending her away fixes things? F asked quietly. You think you can just stand there in your fancy clothes and play daddy for 5 minutes and everything is forgiven? No, Kwame said. I know I have to earn it. You can't earn 7 years, Kwame, F said. She turned to the hut. Girls, bring the food inside. It is getting dark. Kwame stood outside the door. Can I come in? There is no room for a billionaire in there, F said. I am not a billionaire right now, Kwame said. I am just a man who made a mistake. F hesitated. She looked at the darkening sky. The mosquitoes were coming out. You can sit on the bench outside. If it rains, you will get wet. She went inside and the curtain closed. Kwame sat on the rough wooden bench outside the mud hut. The sun went down. The air grew cold. He could hear the girls inside asking questions. Mommy, is that man really daddy? Why does he talk funny? Is he going to stay? He heard F's voice, soft and sad. I don't know, my loves. Men like him, they usually leave when the fun stops. Kwame leaned his head back against the mud wall. He closed his eyes. He was hungry, thirsty, and exhausted. But he promised himself he wouldn't move. He would sit here all night if he had to. Hours passed. The village went quiet. The only sound was the crickets and the distant barking of a dog. Then, suddenly, a sound came from inside the hut. It was a cough. A wet, hacking cough. It was Ajoa. Mommy, my chest. The little girl whimpered. Shoo, shoo. Sit up. F's voice sounded worried. The coughing got worse. It sounded like something was rattling inside the girl's lungs. It was a terrible, deep sound that shouldn't come from a small child. Kwame sat up straight. Mommy, I can't breathe. Ajoa cried out, panic in her voice. Then a thump. Ajoa? Ajoa! F screamed. Kwame, help! She has collapsed. Kwame tore the curtain aside and rushed into the dark hut. F was on the floor, holding Ajoa in her arms. The little girl was limp. Her skin was burning hot, but she was shivering. Her lips were turning blue. What is it? What's wrong? Kwame yelled. It's the asthma. It's the dust. F was crying, shaking her daughter. She needs her medicine, but I didn't have money to buy the inhaler this week. I thought she would be okay. Kwame looked at his daughter. She was gasping for air, her tiny chest moving up and down but getting no oxygen. We need a hospital, Kwame said. He reached into his pocket for his phone. No signal, he cursed. My car. I sent the car away. He looked at F. Her eyes were wide with terror. The nearest hospital is 10 miles away, Kwame. She won't make it walking. Kwame looked at the dying girl in his arms. He was the richest man in the country, but his money was in a bank in the city. His car was gone. His influence meant nothing in this dark hut. He scooped Ajoa up into his arms. She felt terrifyingly light. I will run, Kwame said. It's too far. F sobbed. I will run until my heart bursts, Kwame said, his eyes wild. He kicked off his expensive Italian shoes. He couldn't run in them. He stood barefoot on the dirt floor. Grab a bina, Kwame commanded. Let's go. He burst out of the hut into the night, sprinting into the darkness with his daughter in his arms, praying to a God he hadn't spoken to in years that he wasn't too late. The ground was not soft like the carpet in Kwame's office. It was full of sharp stones and thorns. Kwame ran, but his feet were screaming in pain. Every step sent a shock up his legs. He stepped on a piece of broken glass, and he felt warm blood sliding between his toes, but he didn't look down. He couldn't look down. In his arms, Ajoa was getting heavier, but her breathing was getting quieter. That was the scary part. The loud, whistling noise from her chest had stopped. Now there was just small, weak gasps. Stay with me, Ajoa, Kwame panted. His lungs were burning. Daddy is here. Daddy is running. Behind him, he could hear F running too. She was carrying a bina on her back. F was faster than him, even though she was smaller. She was used to walking everywhere. She was used to hardship. Kwame was soft. His gym muscles were for looking good, not for saving lives. Kwame! F shouted, pointing ahead. Lights! A car! Kwame looked up. 2 yellow headlights were bouncing down the dark road toward them. It was a big, rusty truck carrying timber logs. The engine roared like an angry beast. Kwame didn't think. He ran into the middle of the road. Stop! He screamed, waving his free arm. Stop! The truck didn't slow down. The horn blasted. The bright lights blinded Kwame. The driver couldn't stop a heavy truck that fast. Kwame, move! F screamed from the side of the road. But Kwame stood his ground. He held a Joa up to the light, showing the driver the limp child. He stared into the blinding lights and refused to move. Screech! The brakes squealed. The smell of burnt rubber filled the night air. The massive truck skidded, sliding sideways in the dirt. It stopped just 2 feet from Kwame's nose. The heat from the engine blew against his face. The driver jumped out. He was a giant man with a beard and a metal pipe in his hand. He was furious. Are you mad? The driver shouted. You want to die? I almost crushed you like a bug. Kwame ran to the driver. Please, my daughter. She can't breathe. We need the hospital. The driver looked at Kwame. He saw a man in a torn, dirty suit with no shoes and bloody feet. He saw the wild look in his eyes. Then he looked at the little girl. I am not an ambulance, the driver grunted. Get out of the road. I will pay you, Kwame pleaded. I am Kwame Mensa. I have millions. I will buy you a new truck. Just drive. The driver laughed. It was a cold, hard laugh. You, Kwame Mensa, the billionaire. He pointed at Kwame's muddy feet. And I am the President of America. Get out of my way, madman. The driver turned to climb back into his truck. He was leaving them. Kwame felt a rage so hot it almost blinded him. He wanted to hit the man. He wanted to drag him out. But he couldn't fight with a Joa in his arms. Then F stepped forward. She didn't shout. She didn't fight. She just touched the driver's arm gently. Brother, she said softly. Please. She is just a child. She has done nothing wrong. If you leave us, she dies tonight. Can you live with that ghost in your truck? The driver paused. He looked at F. He saw the pain in her mother's eyes. He sighed. A deep, rumbling sound. Get in the back, he grumbled. It's dirty, but it moves. Kwame didn't wait. He climbed onto the back of the truck, sitting on the rough logs. F climbed up next to him with Abina. The truck lurched forward, bouncing over the potholes. For 10 minutes, they sat in the dark, wind whipping their faces. Kwame held a Joa tight against his chest, trying to share his body heat. She was so cold. Is she breathing? F asked. Her voice was small in the wind. Kwame put his ear to the little girl's mouth. Barely. We need to hurry. He looked at F in the moonlight. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm sorry I wasn't there. F looked at the passing trees. Sorry doesn't fill lungs with air, Kwame. Just hold her. Finally, the lights of the clinic appeared. It wasn't a big hospital. It was a small, yellow building with a peeling sign that said, St. Mary's Clinic. The truck stopped. Kwame jumped down before the wheels stopped moving. He ignored the pain in his bleeding feet and burst through the clinic doors. Help! We need a doctor. The waiting room was empty except for a ceiling fan that clicked lazily. A nurse was sitting behind a desk, reading a magazine. She looked up slowly, annoyed by the noise. She saw a man covered in mud, holding a child. Sir, you cannot shout in here, she said, adjusting her glasses. Take a number and sit down. She is dying, Kwame roared. He ran to the desk. She has asthma. She has stopped breathing. The nurse stood up and looked over the desk. She saw the girl's blue lips. Her attitude changed a little, but not enough. Okay. Bring her to the back, she said. She led them into a small room with a metal bed. Kwame laid Ajoa down. The nurse listened to her chest with a stethoscope. She frowned. This is bad, the nurse said. Her airways are closed. She needs a nebulizer and a steroid injection immediately. Do it, Kwame said. Do it now. The nurse didn't move. She crossed her arms. I need to open a file first. And the injection is expensive. It is an imported drug. We have a policy. You must pay a deposit of 500 sadies before we open the medicine cabinet. Kwame patted his pockets. They were empty. No wallet. No cash. He had left everything in the jacket that was in the back of the car that drove away with Chantel. I don't have cash, Kwame stammered. But I am good for it. Treat her, and I will wire you double the money tomorrow. The nurse shook her head. I have heard that story 1,000 times. No money, no medicine. Try the government hospital in the next town. The next town is 30 minutes away. Kwame screamed. She doesn't have 30 minutes. That is not my problem, the nurse said coldly. We run a business here, not a charity. F fell to her knees. She grabbed the nurse's hand. Please, sister. I will scrub your floors. I will wash your clothes. Please save my daughter. The nurse pulled her hand away. Don't touch me. Security. Kwame felt the world spinning. He was the man who bought companies for breakfast. He was the man who could buy this entire hospital and turn it into a parking lot. But right now, his name meant zero. His power meant zero. Then he remembered. He raised his left wrist. Encased in mud, but still shining underneath, was his watch. It was a Patek Philippe. It was made of solid gold and had diamonds on the face. Cost $50,000. Kwame ripped the watch off his wrist. He slammed it onto the metal table. Take it, Kwame said. His voice was shaking. The nurse looked at the watch. What is this fake toy? I want cash. It's not fake, Kwame yelled. It is solid gold. It is worth more than this entire building. Take it. Keep it. Just give her the medicine. The nurse picked up the watch. She felt the weight of it. She saw the diamonds sparkle under the clinic lights. Her eyes went wide. Greed flashed across her face. Okay, she said, slipping the watch into her pocket. I will give her the medicine. But if this is brass, I will call the police. She ran to the cabinet, unlocked it, and pulled out a vial and a mask. She put the mask over Ajoa's face and turned on the machine. A mist started to flow. Then she gave the injection. Kwame and F stood by the bed, holding hands without realizing it. They watched Ajoa's chest. 1 minute passed. Nothing. 2 minutes. 3 minutes. Then, a deep breath. Ajoa's chest rose high, and she let out a long sigh. The blue color started to fade from her lips. Her eyes fluttered open. Mommy? She whispered weakly. F burst into tears and buried her face in the bedsheets. I'm here, baby. I'm here. Kwame leaned against the wall and slid down to the floor. He put his head in his hands. He was shaking uncontrollably. He had closed deals worth millions, but he had never been this scared in his life. An hour later, Ajoa was sleeping peacefully. The nurse came back in. She looked at Kwame differently now, with suspicion, but also respect for the gold watch. She is stable, the nurse said, but she is very weak. Her lungs are infected. She needs to stay here for a few days. She will stay, Kwame said. Can I use your phone? I need to call my family to come and get us. To bring money. The nurse pointed to a landline on the desk. Make it quick. Kwame dialed the only number he knew by heart. His brother's number. Kofi. Ring, ring. Hello? A voice answered. It sounded sleepy and comfortable. Kofi, Kwame said, his voice thick with emotion. It's me. Kwame. Kwame. Kofi sounded confused. Where are you? Your driver came back with Chantel. She was screaming that you went mad in the village. She said you stayed in the mud. I am at St. Mary's Clinic, Kwame said. I found F. I have children, Kofi. Twins. Silence on the other end. A long, heavy silence. Kofi? I'm here, Kofi said. His voice sounded different now. Colder. Children? Are you sure? Yes, I am sure. Ajoa is sick. I need you to come. Bring the big car. Bring cash. Bring clothes. I need to get them out of here. Okay, Kofi said. I'm coming. Stay right there. Don't move. The line went dead. Kwame went back to sit beside F. Kofi is coming, he told her. He will bring money. He will fix this. He has been looking after the family funds, so he has access to everything. F stiffened. She looked at Kwame with fear. Kofi? You called Kofi? Yes, why? Kwame, F whispered. I told you, Kofi never gave us a penny. When I went to his house to beg for money for medicine last year, he set the dogs on me. He told me if I ever tried to contact you, he would make us disappear. Kwame frowned. That's impossible. Kofi is my brother. He sends me reports every month. He says he built a new house for our mother. He says he pays for the village school. He is a liar, F said, her voice trembling. He is a snake. Kwame didn't want to believe it. Kofi was his blood. They grew up sleeping on the same mat. 30 minutes later, the sound of a powerful engine filled the parking lot. Bright LED lights flooded the clinic windows. He is here, Kwame said, standing up. He felt a wave of relief. You will see, F. It was a misunderstanding. Kofi is here to help. Kwame limped out the front door to greet his brother. A massive silver pickup truck was parked there. The door opened. Kofi stepped out. He was a big man, well-fed, wearing a gold chain and a sharp traditional outfit. He looked like a rich chief. Brother, Kwame called out, walking toward him with his arms open. Thank God you are here. Kofi didn't smile. He didn't open his arms. He reached into his truck and pulled out something. It wasn't a wallet. It wasn't a blanket. It was a shotgun. Kofi pumped the shotgun. Click-clack. He pointed it straight at Kwame's chest. Kofi? Kwame stopped, confused. What are you doing? You should have stayed in the city, Kwame, Kofi said, his eyes cold and dead. You should have stayed with your plastic woman and your plastic life. Kofi, put the gun down, Kwame said, raising his hands. Ajoa is inside. She is your niece. I don't have a niece, Kofi spat. I have an inheritance. And if you come back here with your sudden family, you ruin everything I have built with your money. Kofi took a step forward, his finger tightening on the trigger. Go back inside the clinic, Kwame, Kofi hissed, and pray that the little girl dies, because if she lives, she will be an orphan by morning. The barrel of the shotgun looked like a black tunnel. Kwame stared into it, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. He looked at his brother's face, hoping to see a joke, a smile, anything. But Kofi's face was hard as stone. Kofi, Kwame whispered, raising his hands slowly. This is madness. We are brothers. We have the same mother. We had the same mother, Kofi spat, his voice full of poison. But we do not live the same life. You live in the sky, Kwame. You fly in jets. You eat gold. And what did you leave for me? You left me here to be your servant, to manage your little village projects while you played king. I sent you millions, Kwame shouted. I trusted you with everything. And I took it. Kofi laughed. It was a terrifying sound in the quiet clinic parking lot. I took every Sadie. I built my mansion. I bought my lands. And do you know why? Because you didn't care enough to check. You were too busy with your models and your parties. You forgot us, Kwame. So I made sure you paid for forgetting. The clinic door creaked open behind Kwame. F stepped out. She saw the silver truck. She saw Kofi. And then she saw the gun. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She stood tall like a tree in a storm. I knew it, F said, her voice cutting through the night air. I knew the devil would show his face eventually. Kofi looked at F and sneered. Ah, the village wife. You look old, F. Poverty does not suit you. And greed does not suit you, Kofi, she replied calmly. Put the weapon down. There are sick children inside. Your own blood. They are not my blood, Kofi roared. He stepped closer, the gun shaking in his hands. They are mistakes. If they live, Kwame will give them my money. My inheritance. I will not let some dirty village brats take what is mine. He raised the gun higher, aiming not at Kwame, but at the clinic door, at the room where Ajoa was sleeping. No! Kwame screamed. He didn't think about his bleeding feet. He didn't think about the gun. He just moved. Kwame launched himself at his brother, tackling him around the waist. Boom! The shotgun went off. The blast was deafening. It blew a hole in the dirt, missing F by inches. The sound echoed through the village like thunder. Kwame and Kofi crashed into the mud. They rolled over and over, fighting for the gun. Kofi was heavy and strong. He was well-fed and rested. Kwame was exhausted, injured, and weak from running. Kofi drove his elbow into Kwame's face. Crack. Kwame felt his nose break. Blood poured down his mouth. You are weak, Kofi grunted, punching Kwame in the ribs. You are soft, city boy. Kwame gasped for air, trying to hold onto the gun barrel. He couldn't let Kofi shoot again. He kicked and clawed, but Kofi was too strong. Kofi pinned him down, his heavy knee pressing into Kwame's chest, crushing the air out of his lungs. Kofi ripped the gun from Kwame's hands. He stood up, breathing hard, wiping mud from his expensive clothes. He pointed the gun down at Kwame's head. Goodbye, brother, Kofi whispered. He pulled the hammer back. Wee woo wee woo. Blue and red lights suddenly flooded the parking lot. A siren wailed, piercing the night. 2 police cars screeched into the clinic entrance, tires smoking. Kofi froze. He looked at the police cars. His eyes darted around. He was a smart man. He was a manipulative man. In 1 second, his face changed. He dropped the gun in the mud. He threw his hands up in the air. He put a look of terror on his face. Help! Help me! Kofi screamed at the police. He has gone mad. He tried to kill me. The police officers jumped out of their cars, guns drawn. They saw a big man in nice clothes standing with his hands up. And they saw a bloody, muddy, barefoot man lying on the ground near a shotgun. Stay down! The police shouted at Kwame. Don't move! No, listen to me. Kwame gargled, spitting blood. He is the one. He tried to shoot my daughter. The nurse from the clinic ran out. She was holding the gold watch Kwame had given her. She pointed a shaking finger at Kwame. That is him, the nurse yelled to the police. That is the madman. He burst in here screaming. He tried to bribe me with this stolen watch. He looks like a criminal. The police looked at Kwame. They saw the torn suit, the wild eyes, the lack of shoes. They didn't see a billionaire. They saw a vagrant, a troublemaker. Officer, please, Kofi said, his voice smooth like oil. I am Kofi Mensah. I am a respected businessman in this community. This man, he is my brother, but he is mentally unstable. He escaped from a facility in the city. He attacked me. I was just trying to defend myself. Liar! F screamed. She ran toward the police. He is lying. Kofi brought the gun. Kwame is the father of my children. He is innocent. One of the officers pushed F back roughly. Stand back, woman. Do not interfere. They grabbed Kwame. They hauled him up from the mud and slammed him against the police car. They twisted his arms behind his back. The cold metal of the handcuffs clicked shut. You are making a mistake, Kwame yelled, struggling. I am Kwame Mensah. I own Mensah Logistics. Check my fingerprints. Check my face. The police sergeant laughed. Mensah Logistics? And I own the moon. If you were rich, you wouldn't be looking like a street rat. Get in the car. They shoved Kwame into the back seat. He pressed his face against the window, helpless. He watched as the police sergeant walked over to Kofi. Kofi shook the officer's hand. Kwame saw Kofi slip a thick roll of cash into the officer's palm. The officer smiled and nodded. We will take him away, sir, the officer said. He won't bother you again. Thank you, officer, Kofi said loud enough for Kwame to hear. Keep him locked up tight. For his own safety. The police car engine roared to life. Kwame looked out the window one last time. He saw F standing in the rain, crying. And standing next to her, smiling a wicked smile, was Kofi. Kofi waved at Kwame as the car drove away. Then Kofi turned his body toward F and the clinic door. Kwame screamed. He banged his head against the glass. No, don't leave them. He will hurt them. F, run. But the car was moving too fast. The clinic disappeared into the darkness. Kwame sat back in the hard plastic seat, tears mixing with the blood on his face. He had lost. He was going to a cell. And he had left his sick daughter and his exhausted ex-wife alone with a man who wanted them dead. Back at the clinic, the taillights of the police car faded away. Silence returned. Kofi adjusted his shirt. He picked up his shotgun from the mud and wiped it clean with a handkerchief. He looked at F. F was trembling. She backed away toward the clinic door, blocking the entrance. You sent him away, F whispered. You monster. I saved the family name, Kofi said calmly. He walked closer to her. The look in his eyes was empty and terrifying. Now, about these children. You will not touch them, F said. She looked around for a weapon, a rock, a stick, anything. I don't need to touch them, Kofi said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a lighter. He flicked it. The small flame danced in the dark. Accidents happen in villages all the time, F. Candles fall over. Old wiring sparks. It is a tragedy. You wouldn't, F gasped. Who will stop me? Kofi asked. The police? I own them. Kwame? He is in a cage. You have no one, F. You are alone. He took a step toward the clinic, the flame illuminating his cruel smile. Step aside, F, Kofi said softly. I want to say hello to my nieces. F didn't move. She spread her arms wide across the doorway. You will have to kill me first, Kofi sighed. If you insist. He raised the heavy wooden stock of the shotgun, preparing to strike her down. F closed her eyes and braced for the blow. Suddenly, a bright light blinded them both. A deep, angry roar filled the air. Vroom! The massive timber truck from the road, the one that had brought them there, came charging around the corner. It didn't stop. It wasn't slowing down. It was driving straight at Kofi's silver pickup truck. Crash! The timber truck smashed into Kofi's pickup, crushing the metal like a soda can. Glass shattered. Metal screamed. Kofi's truck was pushed 10 meters sideways into a ditch. Kofi jumped back, dropping the shotgun in fear. The door of the timber truck kicked open. The giant driver, the wolf, stepped out. He was holding a tire iron, and he didn't look happy. I forgot my lunchbox, the driver growled, looking at Kofi. And I don't like bullies. The giant timber truck driver, whose name was Osei, did not look like a hero. He looked like a mountain made of muscle and grease. He tapped the tire iron against his open palm. Clang, clang. Kofi looked at his crushed pickup truck. He looked at Osei. Then he looked at F, who was still guarding the clinic door. You are making a mistake, Kofi stammered, stepping back. Do you know who I am? I know what you are, Osei rumbled. His voice was deep like thunder. You are a man who hurts women and children. In my village, we deal with men like you. Kofi reached for his pocket, maybe for a phone, maybe for a weapon. Osei swung the tire iron, not to hit Kofi, but to smash the remaining headlight of Kofi's truck. Smash! Glass flew everywhere. Kofi yelped and covered his face. Run, Osei said calmly, before I forget that I am a peaceful man. Kofi looked at the dark road. He had no car. He had no gun. It was lost in the mud. He had no backup. He spat on the ground, his eyes filled with pure hate. This isn't over, F, Kofi hissed. I will come back. And when I do, I will burn this whole place down. He turned and ran into the darkness, disappearing into the tall grass. F let out a breath she had been holding for an hour. Her legs gave way, and she slumped against the wall. Osei walked over and offered a hand the size of a shovel. Thank you, F whispered. Why did you come back? Osei shrugged. I saw the police cars pass me. I saw the way that man looked at you. And he looked down at his dirty boots. I have a little girl at home. If she was sick, I would want someone to stop for her. Inside the clinic, A small voice called out, "Mommy!" F rushed inside. Ajoa was sitting up. Her breathing was wheezy, but steady. She was alive. "Where is the funny man?" Ajoa asked. "The one without shoes?" F felt a lump in her throat. He had to go somewhere, baby. Is he coming back? F didn't know how to answer. She looked at Osei standing in the doorway. "We need to go to the police station," she said, her voice hardening. "They took him. They will kill him if we don't stop them." "Then let's go," Osei said. "My truck is ugly, but it is strong." At the police station, Kwame was sitting in a dark, damp cell. The smell was terrible. The floor was wet. His face was swollen from where Kofi had hit him, and his ribs ached every time he breathed. He leaned his head against the cold bars. He had lost everything. His fiancée, his dignity, his freedom. But strangely, as he sat there in the dark, he didn't miss his mansion. He didn't miss his cars. He missed Ajoa's little hand holding his finger. He missed the fierce fire in F's eyes. "Hey, billionaire!" The corrupt sergeant laughed, walking past the cell. "Your brother called. He says he is preparing a statement. He says you tried to rob him. You are looking at 10 years in prison, my friend." "He is lying," Kwame said quietly. "And you know it. The truth is what the highest bidder pays for." The sergeant grinned. He sat down at his desk and put his feet up. Suddenly, the front door of the station banged open. The sergeant jumped up. "Who is that? Get out." Osei the wolf marched in. He filled the doorway. Behind him came F, looking tired but determined. "Get out," Osei grunted. "No, I don't think so. I will shoot you," the sergeant yelled, reaching for his pistol. "Wait!" a sharp voice called out. From behind Osei, a third person stepped forward. It was the nurse from the clinic. She was holding a plastic bag. Inside the bag, something glittered. The sergeant froze. "Nurse? What are you doing with these people?" The nurse looked nervous. She was shaking, but she remembered Kofi's words. "I will burn this whole place down." She knew that if Kofi came back to destroy the evidence, her clinic, and maybe her life, would go up in flames. "I have a statement to make," the nurse said, her voice trembling. "And I have evidence." She walked to the desk and dumped the contents of the bag. The gold Patek Philippe watch clattered onto the wood. Next to it, she placed a small audio recorder, the kind doctors use for notes. "What is this?" the sergeant asked, eyeing the gold watch greedily. "That watch belongs to the man in the cell," the nurse said. "He gave it to me to save his daughter's life. A man who gives away $50,000 to save a child is not a robber." "So? That proves nothing," the sergeant sneered. "And this?" Osei said, pointing to his own chest. He tapped a small black box clipped to his shirt. "My company requires dashcams and body cams for insurance." The sergeant's face went pale. "I recorded everything," Osei lied. He didn't actually have a body cam, just an old radio clipped to his shirt, but he looked so confident that the sergeant believed him. "I recorded the gun. I recorded the bribe you took from the brother." The sergeant swallowed hard. Sweat broke out on his forehead. If there was video evidence, his career was over. If the commissioner saw this, "Now," Osei said, stepping closer, looming over the desk, "you are going to open that cell, or I am going to open it with you." The sergeant looked at the nurse. He looked at F's angry face. He looked at the giant wolf. He slowly reached for the keys. The cell door clanked open. Kwame stepped out. He limped into the light, blinking. He saw F. He didn't say a word. He just walked to her and fell to his knees, wrapping his arms around her waist. He buried his face in her worn dress and wept. "I'm sorry," he sobbed. "I am so sorry." F didn't push him away this time. She hesitated, then slowly placed her hand on his messy hair. "Stand up, Kwame," she said softly. "Your daughters are waiting." The next morning, Kofi sat in the VIP lounge of the airport, sipping a glass of champagne. He had his ticket to Dubai. He had emptied the family accounts. He was leaving the mess behind. He would start a new life where no one knew his name. Flight 404 to Dubai is now boarding, the announcer said. Kofi smiled. He picked up his leather bag. He walked toward the gate. Mr. Kofi Mensah? A voice asked. Kofi turned around. Yes. Standing there was the police commissioner, not the corrupt sergeant, but the big boss from the city. Behind him were 4 armed officers. And standing next to them was Kwame. Kwame was still wearing his dirty suit. He hadn't showered. He looked terrible, but he stood tall. Kwame. Kofi laughed nervously. What is this? Did you break out of jail? Officer, arrest him. We saw the footage from the clinic security cameras, the commissioner said. The nurse had remembered them at the last minute. And we have testimony from the nurse and a Mr. Osei. Kofi's face dropped. Footage. You are under arrest for attempted murder, fraud, and embezzlement, the commissioner said. The officers grabbed Kofi. He dropped his bag. Kwame. Kofi screamed as they dragged him away. Kwame, help me. I am your brother. You can't let them take me. I have money. We can share it. Kwame looked at his brother. He felt sad, but he felt no hesitation. You have nothing, Kofi, Kwame said calmly. You are the poorest man I know. Kwame watched them drag his brother away. Then he turned to the commissioner. Thank you, Kwame said. Don't thank me, the commissioner said. Thank your wife. She refused to leave the station until I arrived. My wife. The words sounded sweet. 6 months later. The village road was dusty just like before, but the small mud hut was gone. In its place, a team of builders was finishing a new house. It wasn't a mansion. It was a simple, strong brick house with a big porch and a blue roof. Nearby, the St. Mary's Clinic had a new sign, the Ajoa and Abina Medical Center. It had new paint, new machines, and a full pharmacy. Kwame sat on the steps of the new porch. He wasn't wearing a suit. He was wearing jeans and a t-shirt. He was holding a hammer. He was fixing a loose railing. Daddy, watch this. Kwame looked up. Ajoa and Abina were running in the yard. They were wearing new shoes, bright red sneakers. Ajoa was laughing, her lungs strong and clear. I see you. Kwame cheered. You are too fast for me. F came out of the house carrying a tray of lemonade. She looked healthy. Her skin was glowing. She wore a nice dress, simple but new. She sat down next to Kwame. You are getting better with the hammer, she teased. I am learning, Kwame smiled. He wiped sweat from his forehead. It is harder than signing checks. Have you heard from the city? F asked. Yes, Kwame said. The board of directors wants me to come back. They want me to run the company again. F went quiet. She looked at the girls playing. And? What will you do? Kwame looked at his phone. It was buzzing with emails. He looked at his watch, a simple plastic one, because he had told the nurse to keep the gold one as a donation to the clinic. I told them I can be a consultant, Kwame said. I can work from here. I need to be where my real job is. And what is your real job? F asked, looking into his eyes. Kwame took her hand. His palms were rough now, calloused from work. Being a father, Kwame said. And being the man you deserved 7 years ago. F squeezed his hand. She didn't say I love you yet. That would take time. But she rested her head on his shoulder. And that was enough. A horn honked from the road. It was Osei. He was driving a brand new, shiny timber truck. A gift from an anonymous donor. He waved his big hand as he drove past. Kwame waved back. He took a deep breath of the village air. It smelled of earth and rain and cooking fires. He didn't have his billions in cash anymore. A lot of it had gone to fixing Kofi's mess and paying back the villagers Kofi had cheated. But as his twin daughters ran into his arms, giggling and calling his name, Kwame Mensah knew the truth. He had arrived with a luxury car and an empty heart. He was staying with a hammer and a full soul. He was, finally, the richest man in the world.